Now here on this channel, we do a lot of predictions. We do things like viewer predictions, my own personal predictions, but in today's video, I wanted to try something a little bit different. I wanted to talk to the thing that seems like it is taking over the world and ask AI or chat GPT what they think the future of Fortnite competitive is. We're also going to be asking it so many different questions like who its personal top 10 GOAT list is, the most overrated player of all time, and so much more. We're going to see who starts though. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as we try our best to upload daily competitive content for you guys. If you guys want to support me even more, the best way to do so is by using code Kdog in the Fortnite item shop. We got a lot of different questions to ask it today, so let's just get this video started. Alright, so I wanted to start this off pretty simple, you know. I wanted to just straight up off the bat ask it its opinion on the top 10 greatest Fortnite players of all time. Now coming in at the number 10 spot might already be a surprise to a lot of you guys. It said Clix. They said that Clix is a popular icon with a massive competitive and streaming presence. FNCS wins, which I don't know if AI is like tapped in with Fortnite competitive nowadays, but Clix don't got any FNCS wins. It also says incredible mechanics and crowd appeal, sometimes inconsistent, but always a threat. I think that last part right there was a lot more prevalent and maybe how his career was a year and a half ago. Nowadays, Clix seems to be one of the most consistent competitive players, I think, in the Div Cups ever since they started. Him and his trio quite literally are the most consistent Div Cup team of all time. Do I personally think Clix is the 10th best Fortnite player of all time? No, definitely not. But then after that, the list got a little bit more valid. In their 9th place spot, they had Vino. They said Vino is a frequent high placer in EU FNCS, and he is feared in stacked endgames as well. I think a lot of people as of right now do have Vino around that 10 to 9 spot. And another thing that I just gotta clarify real quick, ChatGPT can pull a lot of their information off of the internet and just take lists from there and then list them out here. But I specifically told ChatGPT to make their own personalized list and answer for every single one of these things that I asked it. 8th place, they said it was Seti. Now they said Seti is calm, smart, and consistent, multiple FNCS top finishes, and a key duo of Cammy, and dependable across multiple seasons. I think the last part is also very similar to what we were talking about with Clix, where Seti seems to be the one who is more inconsistent now than we saw him maybe a year and a half ago. Moving on with the rest of the list, in 7th place, they have Mongrel. Now they say Mongrel is an early game beast and an editing pioneer, which the editing pioneer part definitely probably true. Redefined the mechanical skill in Fortnite's prime. Also probably very true. Of course, the inventor of the Mongrel classic. Though less dominant in recent years, his legacy is massive. He knows that Mongrel is not the same player today as he was in the past, but they are just giving him some major respect for how much of a pioneer of the game he was, I guess. But I would also probably have to say Mongrel is not the 7th best player of all time, probably not even top 20 all time. In 6th place, they have the greatest player of all time to have never won an FNCS of Thomas HD. They said Thomas HD is one of the most mechanically sound players ever. Now I think he has an argument for that, but I would more say he is one of the best aimers in Fortnite history, always adapting to the new meta and finishing with strong finishes, and is an EU veteran with an enduring competitive career. Also 100% true. I feel like a lot of people forget that Thomas HD literally played during the World Cup times, and he placed 21st in duos as well, and he is still competing at a very high level today, and there is only a couple of other players that can say they are doing the same thing as him. Moving on to their top 5 now, in 5th place they have Queasy. They say Queasy is a brilliant IGL and strategist, FNCS Invitational winner, and consistent top tier finisher. First of all, Queasy didn't win FNCS Invitational. He ended up placing 2nd place in that, but still overall I think Queasy probably is a top 5 player of all time. In 4th place might be a surprise to a lot of you guys, including myself. They have Miro. They say Miro is the best controller player of all time, hands down. Can't really argue with that at all. Multiple FNCS titles with different teammates. Also can't argue with that one either. Won multiple times with Day in Reverse 2K, won multiple times with Booga, and they say he is versatile and reliable under high pressure. Also one of the most clutch players the game has ever seen. Moving on to the top 3 now, one that I do not agree with being this high is Tayson. Now the wins that Tayson has is inaccurate right here. It says he only has 3 of them. Of course though, I do agree with the last sentence, one of the most successful and respected players ever. But the thing that will always hurt Tayson in the GOAT rankings is just the very little to no LAN success at all. Still though, Tayson is currently to me in that argument for either being the 1st or the 2nd best EU player of all time. And then moving on to the top two, in second place they have Peterbot, mechanical monster and current top performer, FNCS champion with insane aim and elite consistency, dominates the FNCS rankings and the leaderboard in the recent years. So that means that, of course, their number one Fortnite player of all time is Booga. In my opinion, though, I do currently think that Peter is the greatest player of all time. I would put Booga more in that 2 to 3 range, but I can still also see the arguments for people that want to say Booga is the greatest Fortnite player of all time. As they literally said, he has stayed relevant for years, consistently placing in FNCS events, even still to this day. The next question that I asked AI was, who is the current most overrated player in Fortnite? And their answer might come as a surprise to a lot of you guys. They said that it is Clix. Now, before you Clix fans all get mad, here's their reasoning. What he is amazing at: elite mechanics, his edits and aim are still top tier, insane brand power, built one of the biggest fan bases in Fortnite history, and a recent resurgence. His FNCS Major 2 2025 trio with Yamzo and Higgs plays well and is no joke in current lobbies. But then AI said, here is the catch: inconsistency over time. For years, Clix has struggled to turn his potential into consistent high placements. His name has stayed hot even when his results cooled off. Now, I think a lot of you guys would probably have to say that is fair. This next one is a really bold opinion right here. They say more fame than results. He was seen as a top 5 player when he hadn't won anything big in forever. Meanwhile, players like Cold, Miro, and Peterbot were dominating. I think as of late, you can't really say that argument at all after he's literally gotten 2nd and 3rd place in FNCS Grand Finals. But there was also a time in Clix's career, even if you guys remember that whole like Mongrel clip and everything, when Mongrel was saying he's just a qualifier warrior, can never do anything in Grand Finals. To me, really, once Clix started getting his best FNCS placements and having that like 4th place curse is really where he started to become a super good player again and not just a big content creator. But then their last argument was that he has a streamer first vibe. He balances content and competitive, which is fine, but he often gets ranked above pure grinders who actually win more often. Now, do I think that Clix is currently the most overrated player in Fortnite? I think it is kind of unfair to say anybody that is like a super big name content creator is overrated, because obviously their fan base is always probably going to overrate them in relativity to how their actual skill is. So I think it's hard to say anybody that's on that tier of like Clix, Mr. Savage, players like that they're overrated, because they're technically always going to be overrated because of just the massive fan base that they have. But I mean, AI also did make some valid points, so it's just up for you guys' debate down below. Next up, I had to ask AI who was the most underrated player in the game. Now, they actually gave me 2 separate answers for this. The first answer that they gave me was Ritual. They said why Ritual flies under the radar: consistent high IQ playstyle, not flashy but ridiculously smart in endgames, plays positioning and rotates better than most, results over recognition. He is placed in multiple FNCS events and was part of the Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual trio that won the recent majors. But when people talked about that team, all the praise goes to Peterbot and Cold, and Ritual gets treated like the support guy in the background. That's wild. Low ego, low profile. Doesn't stream much, doesn't clout chase, just shows up and performs. In a game full of loud personalities, his quiet dominance gets overlooked. Ritual definitely has started to stream more recently, and I think in the recent Grand Finals, people did start to put more respect on his name. And when it said that he gets treated like the support player, that is quite literally what his role is on the trio. But I think Ritual is a good pick for being a very underrated player. And then the other option that they chose was Agers. Now, they pretty much said the exact same thing about Agers, also with like being overshadowed by teammates. They said because Poyo and Acorn have bigger names, Agers doesn't always get the credit he deserves, but in many endgames, he's the one clutching, not just supporting. And we did see that a lot in Major 1. Agers, I think, was almost tied or ahead of Peterbot for the most solo points clutched in that Grand Finals. I think both these options are very good. I would personally still go with Walks though. Next up, I had to ask what their updated NA predictions are, and EU as well, for their top 3 in Grand Finals. I gave them the list of all of the current trios and what their placements were in this season, and I think their predictions honestly came out pretty solid. In first place, they have a maybe surprise trio though of Kanata, Bolts, and Rapid. They said first and fourth place in previous rounds, clear path to endgame, uncontested as far as we know, and all 3 have endgame awareness plus a surge plan. I think a lot of people's current favorites are Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs. And I don't know if I said this earlier, but I also told AI about the Peterbot versus Poyo off spawn fight as well. The second place team that they had though, predicting them to go back to back in second place is now, they have the trio of Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs. They're pretty pretty much just predicting an entire second place season for this trio. They said second, and second in grand finals is a consistency monster. Great chemistry. They don't rely on crazy frag plays. If they stay on con, they are absolutely a winning threat. I think those are all very valid points so far that they brought up. And then honestly, a surprising team that they have in the third place spot, they went with Muzz, Shadow, and Sphinx. They said place 6th and 5th place, showing clear upward momentum. Muzz has FNCS experience and isn't scared of stacked endgames, and they said could also sneak into the top 3 if chaos breaks out between Peterbot and Poyo. I also let them talk about Peter and Poyo's off spawn fight. They said if they don't split or win early, I can't confidently put either team in the top 3 anymore. Their max potential is top 5, but the contest risk makes it difficult, and they could also see them placing outside of the top 15. Of course, I'd ask them what they think the off spawn score is going to be between these two trios, and they gave the edge to Poyo, saying he is going to beat Peterbot in grand 7-5, which I think also is a very likely outcome that could happen. And then for their EU predictions, they said first place they're gonna go with Marius, Pixie, and Vanya. They said it's the safest pick, which I do agree with. Second place they go with Vico, Vino, and Flixie. They said as long as they remain unconned, they are top 3 guaranteed. And then the last one was probably the most surprising one out of all of these lists. They are going with Cammy, Eyedrop, and Hari. I also let ChatGPT know that Queasy and Malibuka are contesting each other too. And hey, I'm all for bold predictions over here, so I'm all here for the Cammy, Eyedrop, and Hari top 3 prediction in this grand finals if they are going to be uncontested. Next up, I had to ask it their top 3 predictions for the FNCS Global Championships. This is, of course, figuring that all of these guys are going to be uncontested. I think they went with pretty solid options as well. In third place, they have the trio of Swizzy, Queasy, and Murstache. They said they have a high ceiling, dynamic playstyle, and very high upside potential. Completely agree with all 3 of those points. The trio that they have in the second place spot is Vico, Vino, and Flixie. Also could really see that happening as well. No problems with that one either. And then in their first place spot, they have the main contenders, and they said that it is currently Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual. They said Peterbot has the momentum, proven synergy, and a well-rounded skill set. They said Cold's consistency, Ritual's adaptive playstyle, and Peterbot's elite IQ makes them a near complete trio. I think this top 3 is very fair. There is a couple of names I could potentially still have on here, like Acorn, Adriz, and Poyo, Clix, Yamzo, and Higgs, but still, I think it's a solid list overall. The next question that I had to ask is, will Clix ever win an FNCS? They gave a couple of different reasons that I agree with. They said he is better than ever right now in this very moment. Clix is not just a content creator anymore, he is placing top 5 consistently with Yamzo and Higgs in current FNCS. They said he has elite mechanics and IGL growth, which I kind of see the point they're trying to make here. I don't think they're necessarily saying he's like the IGL of the trio, but he is showing at certain points at times in the game he can take over and lead as well, and he is still a very smart decision maker. They also finally said that he has strong trio chemistry, which all of us would agree with as well. And then they also gave us a list of reasons why it might not happen. They first said high pressure clutch moments. Historically, Clix has struggled to close out wins in grand finals. He often finishes just outside of the top 1 or 2, which has built up a reputation for choking, fair or not. I don't think I would necessarily say Clix is like a grand finals choker. The only 2 main times that I feel like he was really in a position to win FNCS is the first time that he played with Vino, where they were literally in first place after day 1, and then in this most recent grand finals where they were going back and forth all the way into the 12th game versus Peter. Once again, he just hasn't been able to get over the hump that is Peterbot quite yet. And that is also what they talked about in their third point of massive competition. They said winning FNCS now is harder than it ever was, even in 2020, which I also agree with there. So their final prediction was yes, Clix will eventually win an FNCS, but not a solo FNCS. It will most likely be in trios or duos with teammates like Yamzo and Higgs, who balance out his playstyle and let him shine as a fragger and second voice. He's too skilled, too experienced, and too motivated not to. If he stays on his current path, his first FNCS win is more likely than ever, possibly even this year. I think that was just perfectly said right there. I agree with a lot of the things that AI said right here. Then the final question that I asked it was predict the next 5 years of Fortnite competitive. So of course, starting off 2025, 2026, they said it is the land renaissance and a new dynasty. They said Peterbot Code Ritual, Vino, Pixie, and Agers dominate the FNCS era. FNCS Global Championships becomes the centerpiece of the comp scene with more global spots, live events, and Pro-Am integration. This is the big one right here. They said Clix finally wins his first FNCS, likely in trios, silencing the doubters and solidifying his legacy. Asia, Brazil, and I'm not sure what the last one is right there, but they said they're going to rise as dark horse regions with new breakout talent. They said that the meta is going to shift to reward patient IGLs and mid-ground kings over ultra fraggers. Now, of course, in the meta that we're currently in right now, this is a lot more of a fighting meta. So maybe they're predicting that the globals meta is going to be more catered towards those smart IGLs. And then the last one right here, the players would absolutely love. Land prize pools increase again as Epic reinvests post-creator economy success. Moving on to the next year of 2027 to 2028. So I guess this is 2 years in the future. They said that the next gen superstars emerge. The first wave of Zoomer prodigies ages 13 to 15 shock the scene. Players we haven't heard of yet become household names. They're saying that the controller versus keyboard and mouse rivalry will heat up again as controller tech evolves, which I don't know if I can agree with that one. I feel like controller is pretty much in the dirt right now. AI is also predicting that we're going to go back to a mixture of trios and duos for the game mode, I'm pretty sure. They also said that team orgs will return like NRG, TSM, and FaZe as Fortnite regains an esports structure. I cannot center in on the fact of how big this would be for the competitive ecosystem if this actually did end up happening. We have a lot of very solid orgs right now, but there is no like super big name orgs in the Fortnite scene at all really anymore. This next one was really interesting to me. It said Cold either retires or shifts into coaching / mentorship. I think by the time of 2027 to 2028, I would not really be surprised if Cold did end up retiring. We all know he is not the biggest grinder of the game. I don't think he would really want to shift into that coaching / mentorship role though, but I think this could be a pretty valid prediction. And then the last one that they had is Peterbot or Vico will hold the FNCS LAN win record by now. Now, I don't think there has been anybody that has ever won 2 LAN events in Fortnite's history. You guys can let me know if I'm wrong though in the comment section down below. That means Peterbot just has to win at least 1 more LAN, and then Vico is going to have to win 2 by the time 2028 concludes. And then finally for 2029 to 2030, they said Fortnite as a full esport ecosystem. Epic launches an annual world tour, 4 LANs per year across different continents. 4 LANs a year would be absolutely insane if we eventually had that. They said Fortnite becomes a high school and college esport with FNCS qualifiers tied into school-based leagues like Rocket League and Valorant did. Now, I don't know too much about what they mean by what Rocket League and Valorant did. I know Fortnite used to be a lot more involved in like high school and college esports with Play Versus, I think that's what it was called. But FNCS qualifiers being tied into that would be very interesting. They said OGs like Booga, Miro, Tasting, and Clix become team owners, coaches, or broadcast analysts. I could definitely see that happening. Clix already is a team owner. FNCS returns to duos and solos, marking a nostalgia wave and testing the pure skill of an individual. So ChatGPT is predicting we are not going to get a solo FNCS until 2029. They said the game modes will evolve, core build modes remain a competitive standard, alongside 0 build rotations. This is kind of the thing we were all fearing for a very long time, as the potential of a 0 build FNCS, and maybe that is what they're alluding to here. And then finally they said that the prize pools will hit $10 to $15 million globally each year, making Fortnite one of the top 3 esports by reach. I think that would also be great for the game. Pretty fun predictions right here. And then the final thing that I wanted to ask them was something that is pretty difficult to predict, but what is the top 5 GOAT debate going to look like by 2030? And this is what they had to say. In the 5th place spot, they said it is to be determined. A 13 to 15-year-old unknown today will shock the world, and by 2030 they will be top 5 all time. I think completely valid prediction. 2030 is still 5 years away. Peter literally went from maybe a top 50 player, even possibly lower than that, at the beginning of last year to now arguably the greatest Fortnite player of all time in just a 2-year stretch. So imagine what an underrated kid can do in the next 5 years. In 4th place, they have a very surprising surprising one of Pixie. They said young prodigy becomes a solo and duo standout. I think Pixie is still quite a bit of FNCS wins away from even being in those considerations for like top 15 of all time, but he is only 17 years old. So if we're saying he's still going to be competing by the time he's like 22, then he probably will have a very solid resume built up by then. And third place is probably the only person on this list that I feel like it is going to be very difficult for them to reach top 3 all time by this time. And they have Agers plus clutch player. And I mean, if Agers just becomes like the most clutch player in Fortnite history, pulls off some insane stuff in this upcoming grand finals and LAN as well, then maybe. But I feel like once again, by the time 2030 comes around, I don't think Agers is going to be seen as the third best Fortnite player of all time. Second place, they have Vico. They say he's going to have some insane consistency and peak in trios performances. This is one that I could see. I think Vico still has a very long career ahead of him. Already proven that he can perform in grand finals, already proved that he can perform at a global championship. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised with this one either. And then they said still in the first place spot though is going to be Peterbot. They're going to say he has the most LAN wins ever, a clutch legacy, and he is going to be the definition of the mechanical ceiling in Fortnite. Now, I don't even know if I would necessarily say that Peter is even the most mechanical player in the game right now, but I do have to agree that I think by the time Peterbot's career is all said and done, his achievements will be near impossible to pass. So I really could still see by the time that 2030 rolls around that he is still the unanimous GOAT of Fortnite. Other than that though, went over a lot of different fun things in today's video. If you guys want some other AI videos in the future, just let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys agree and disagree with from the AI as well. Remember, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, as we try our best to upload daily competitive content for you guys. If you guys want to support me even more, the best way to do so is by using code Kdog in the Fortnite item shop. YouTube says to enjoy one of these 2 videos up on the screen right now, so go check them out if you guys haven't already. Thank God for another day, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.